Hello, everyone, and today we will be going into the world of geometry. And to start off this section, let me introduce you to the basic geometric figures. So another way of naming those is one-dimensional geometric figures. And what do we mean by one dimension? One dimension, or a shorthand for that would be like 1D. You can think of it as one direction, the D as kind of like a direction in which you can move. So let me explain that after I introduce the figures. So the most basic figure would be something like this. Okay, so it's just a dot, and this figure is called a point. Okay, so this is an imaginary point in space that composes all of the geometric figures. So this right here is a point, and if you connect a lot of points, like this, you will eventually get something that looks like this. Right? I've connected all the points, and now it looks something like that. Okay, this is called a line segment. So line segment, I'm sure you've heard of the word line before. Okay, this is what you would usually call this a line in real life. The reason we say line segment is to differentiate from the mathematical line, which is this would be a line in math. And the difference between a line and a line segment is that, as you notice, there are these arrows here for lines. This means that this line goes on forever in both directions. So if you were to actually draw this line out, it'll have to be really long. It has to go on forever like this. But since we can't just keep drawing the lines like this, we are putting arrows on both sides to say that this keeps on going forever this way, this keeps on going forever this way. Okay, so that's why we're putting these arrows here. So a line, let me actually erase this. So a line goes on forever in both directions, but a line segment stops. So it has a beginning and an end. So a line segment starts and ends. And usually when you see lines in real life, this is the case, right? You don't usually see lines that goes on forever in both directions. A line goes on forever. So a line is more like a mathematical concept. You can't really see lines in real life. You do see line segments though in real life. Okay, so that's the difference between lines and line segments. Now, if you have a line or a line segment that has a beginning, it starts here like this, but it doesn't have an end. It just keeps on going in one direction. Okay, this is called a ray. So let me to differentiate with the definition of a line. A line goes on forever in both directions. And a ray goes on forever in one direction. So if you look at the picture of the ray here, or the image of a ray here, it stops at this end, but there's an arrow on the other end to show that it goes on forever in that direction. Okay, so this is what a ray looks like. And again, if these definitions don't make sense to you, don't worry too much about these. If you're just starting on this section, I would recommend that you just match the name with the image. Okay, so this is the important part. Just match the name with the image. So point looks like this. Actually, let me put just circle these. A line segment looks like this. A point looks like this. A line looks like this. An array looks like this. Okay, so if you're just starting this section, that's all you need to remember for now. Okay, just memorizing the names so that you become familiar with those when we refer to those later on. Now, these are the basic one-dimensional figures. I should put S here since we have more than one. These are basic one-dimensional figures, and with these figures, we can make some more figures. So for example, if I connect two rays together, so there's one ray right here, and another ray right here going that way. Okay, by the way, these can go in any direction. So a ray can go like this, a ray can go like this, a ray can go like this, or a ray can even go like that, as long as it stops on one side and goes on forever on the other side. Okay, and the same thing goes with lines and line segments. A line can go like this. It doesn't have to go from side to side as shown here. You can go like that. You can even go like this. Okay, so these are all lines. So over here we have two rays. You have two rays, or I should say they have the same endpoint with the same endpoint. Endpoints, and this is called an angle. And you're interested about this measurement right here. You're not really concerned about the length of the sides. You don't usually concern the length of the sides. But when you say angle, you usually mean this. Okay, so that's an angle. When two rays are connected, that's called an angle. And if the two rays are connected like this, so that you can fit a little square here, or a more technical way of saying this is so that that is 90 degrees. Degrees are ways of measuring angles, and later on you'll learn how to measure 90 degrees. But for now, you can just understand this as being able to fit a square in between. So this is a special kind of angle. This is called a right angle. It's called a right angle. These are things or images or figures, whatever you want to call them, that you can make with rays. Okay, when you join two rays together, you can make these figures. And let's see what happens when you are joining, when you are joining two lines. So for example, if we have a line that goes like that, and another line that goes like this, the two lines cross each other at that point right there. Okay, when two lines cross each other like that, this is called intersecting lines. Intersecting lines. Okay, intersecting just means that they're crossing each other. And when they cross at right angles, so that means if I have one line like this and another line like this, and you can fit, remember right angles that we've looked at above here? Right angle means you can fit a little square in between. So if you can fit a little square here, So these two lines are intersecting right here, but in addition to that, the angle between them is a right angle. And this is called perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular means they cross each other at right angles. And lastly, if we have two lines, but they never intersect, so we have a line that goes like this, another line that goes like this, in the same direction. So even if you extend this line so that they go on forever, both of these lines, they're never going to intersect. They're never going to intersect. If I had a line like this, and another line like this, even though they don't intersect in the picture, if you keep extending this line like this, they're eventually going to intersect here. Right? So this is not, or I should tell you what the name of this is. So when two lines are not intersecting, they don't intersect even after we extend them, these are called parallel lines. So these are parallel lines, but these are not parallel lines. The ones on the right, these are not parallel lines, because even though they don't intersect here, they're eventually going to intersect here if you keep extending these lines. Okay, so that's the basic idea between, or behind the one-dimensional geometric figures. So these three are the relationships between lines. Okay, so these are the one-dimensional figures. And again, if the definitions confuse you, don't worry too much about them, but just try to memorize the names of these figures. Point with the image of those figures. Okay, so point looks like this, a line segment looks like this, a line looks like this, a ray looks like this, an angle looks like this, a right angle looks like this, intersecting lines look like this, perpendicular lines look like this, and parallel lines look like this. Okay, I've drawn too many lines here. It might be confusing, but you get the picture, right? So make sure you memorize the names with the shapes. Okay, and eventually with practice, you're gonna naturally be able to memorize these. So don't stress too much about having to memorize these. Don't stress too much if you don't understand some of these. Just think of this as the starting point. Okay, this is the starting point of learning geometry, and you can start that by trying to associate the shapes with their names.